There's a bit of a bump into that corner. It's downhill. There's a bit of an opposite camber, and it's all just quite a tricky corner. And it's a good spot to overtake, but it's also a good spot to end up in the gravel trap, as we have seen across this weekend. So you could see the cars lined up in the pit lane. It'd be interesting to see who goes out first. Well, there's the answer straight away. It is the Mad Panda, and another driver who we welcomed back, well, it was at Zandvoort for the last round, and he's here again, is Maxi Goertz. He's alongside his Equal Paris Companc. They're looking to try and unlock a bit of speed in that Mercedes AMG GT3. No better man than Maxi Goertz to do that. He is the 2012 champion in GT Masters, and he will be qualifying the car in this session. So maybe we saw it yesterday, drivers going out for a sighter lap and then coming straight back into the pits. Maybe that is what we're going to see at the start of this session.
Yes, well, it seemed as if we had about 10 minutes of prelude and 10 minutes of qualifying yesterday. Whether or not that proves to be the case this time around, we'll have to wait and see. Certainly, it's difficult to not really follow the herd if that is what happens. If you're a driver that just wants to do 1 or 2 laps to embed the Pirellis, get out there, get going. Unfortunately, if the other 20 or so cars out there have decided not to do that, you've got some mobile chicanes to deal with. So you do kind of have to go with that herd mentality to an extent.
Well, the problem is that the track evolves quite quickly in the morning as the rubber goes down, as the temperature builds. So you can understand the drivers leaving it till late in the session, because that is when they are potentially going to have the best opportunity to score a pole position. But of course, you only need somebody to chuck it in the gravel or for a red flag to come out in those closing minutes, and you can go from 0 to 0 in the blink of an eye.
It doesn't take much, does it? We've seen moments like that already this season, people pushing the envelope a little bit too far. You don't want to be the driver that leads to your mechanic's missing lunch, for what certainly in these qualifying sessions on the morning of the race.
We're just with Christian Engelhardt as he rides up towards turn 9. That is quite a steep incline. We walked that one last night, and it's actually steeper than you think, isn't it? On TV screens, you don't get a really good representation of the undulation here. And there is a fair bit of undulation at the Nürburgring, about 7.7 meters of elevation change. And particularly that run up to turn 9, it's quite tricky. You were suggesting that maybe drivers are able to brake later because of the incline of the hill into the chicane. I didn't see anybody braking at all for the chicane yesterday.
Yeah, it's one of those corners where your intuition kind of tells you, well, I need to brake here, but in reality it's about 20 meters later. And then, of course, sometimes you can overcook it and try and go 30 meters later, and that's when you end up taking the other version of the chicane they have for the 24-hour race. And then you've kind of got the polar opposite issue into turn 1, where it's very much downhill and the corner drops away from you. So if you don't have the car stopped, you're going to have a very hard time to actually get around the corner properly. There's not much room for error at turn 1, or indeed at turn 9. There are a few very interesting braking zones around this circuit. Turn 5, which Ben Green is just approaching now, that is a very intriguing corner as well, because you kind of enter on a very negative camber. The corner kind of drops into something a bit more conventional halfway through, and you can clip the apex nicely on the outside, but you've got to fight the car drifting wide on turn-in, which can be very difficult to achieve at speed, especially if you've got someone prying on you from behind in the race.
You see the yellow mambas running together on track there. There's 2 of them, just to confuse us. Number 48 and number 84, just to confuse us. Of course, it's Marciello and Engel in one of them. The other, Elias Seppänen and Frankie Bird, both really impressed yesterday. Elias Seppänen did an awesome job in quali, putting it on the 2nd row. They brought it home in 6th place. That was an excellent job for 2 drivers making their debut in the GT Masters this year. Both are in the junior category and had some fairly experienced people around them, and they kept their cool and they held it together. The 2 yellow mambas, well, I can't tell them apart. I just have to squint and see if I can see the number. I think probably the wing mirrors are a different color or something, but both cars are very dialed in, and I expect that Seppänen and Frankie Bird, who is qualifying that car this morning as they both come into the pits, they will have taken some encouragement by the pace that Marciello and Engel had yesterday. I wonder if notes are swapped across the garage. I expect they are, as they try and get a setup that works well for the conditions today.
Would have thought there would be some degree of unity, sharing of laptop screens and such. Here's a screenshot of what we're doing. How does it match? That is probably the case, yes. Must say, Frankie Bird, as much as he is new to this championship, GT Masters in 2022, he's one of those people that seems to do just about anything that involves a steering wheel, some pedals and a helmet. He is a very, very keen motorsport competitor. I believe he's even done some rallying, but he was in GT3 competition last year with an Audi. This year he's into GT Masters. He's got the Mercedes. Frankie is certainly someone who loves his motor racing, and great to have him here, and great to see him and indeed the co-driver Elias Seppänen really evolving meeting on meeting. You get the feeling by the end of the year they will be regularly challenging for those podium places. Yeah, absolutely. And Elias Seppänen, it was only 2 years ago we were commentating on him in the ADAC Formula 4 category, and he was very good in that. But so good to see drivers running up through the ranks. Another one, of course, Nicholas Cruton, who's alongside Ben Green. He was in Formula 4 in 2019, and here he is now challenging for the championship in GT Masters. A driver or a car that didn't have that much success yesterday, the number 71. It's Marco Mappelli at the wheel. At the moment, Max Paul did the qualifying yesterday. It's fair to say it was a lively one for him in the Paul Motorsport Lamborghini, the car that was T3 Motorsport, but now has passed over to the father of Max Paul, and that's Tobias Paul, and so we now call them Paul Motorsport. Marco Mappelli, an experienced and entertaining driver, looking probably for a less exciting day than yesterday. I think they had a bit of rebuilding to do on that. It didn't finish in the end, but it was in the wars. There was bits of bodywork hanging off, as it was the case with quite a few cars yesterday. It seemed to be the Vidal chicane up at turn 9 and 10 that seemed to be the area where a lot of the drivers were getting a little bit down and dirty with it. Yes, well, I must give credit where credit's due to where I saw this on Twitter from the account Girl Talks Racing, who said that we were trialling air brakes yesterday in GT Masters, because obviously we had the bodywork off the 71 car, one point facing directly upwards. We had one of the Audis, the Land Motorsport, I think it was 28 car, with the bonnet completely up at one point as well. The drag coefficients were going all kinds of wrong yesterday during the GT Masters race. Here is Ben Green coming through the final corner. He's still a long way away from a representative lap, a 1:33.765 across the line, which is somewhere in the ballpark of 7 or 8 seconds off what we expect to be a quick and competitive time here. But good to see that the laps are starting to come in now. As we kind of anticipated, the first half of the session was going to be largely embedding tyres and things like that, and I think now we can start to see some quick times come in. Good to see Ben Green out on track. It has been very much an up and down season for him and teammate Nicholas Cruton. The Schubert Motorsport BMW M4, of course, new for 2022 and has taken a lot of development and dialing in. They had the Red Bull Ring. They became the first driver pairing in 4 years, I think it was, to win back-to-back races on the same weekend, and that really was the crest of a wave for them at the Red Bull Ring. The results around that have been around the top 10 most of the time, and they dearly would love to improve on that. They're still well in the championship hunt, just 15 points off the lead of the championship, but both Ben Green and Nicholas Cruton would dearly love to have a good result here at the Nürburgring this weekend. They've got the equipment for it in that BMW because it is very rapid. They need a bit of luck and they need to hang it all together. Ben Green, this is where it starts for him because he needs to get a good lap on the board early on and get up the grid. Overtaking, as we've already mentioned, not easy here, so grid positions are very important. If they qualify in the second part of the grid, they're going to struggle to get onto the podium. Still times that are still maybe 6 seconds shy of what we're expecting, but with the qualifying session approaching halfway, the track just starting to evolve a little, and in a minute
it's going to get very crowded. In fact, at the moment, it's getting very crowded because according to my timing screen, I think everybody is out on track, and finding space to put in a hot lap without tripping over somebody else is a challenge in itself.
The biggest challenge of all, arguably, yes, around this circuit. At just over 2 miles, 3.6 kilometers. Its space is at a bit of a premium, and that can mean that things get tricky at certain pinch points around the track. Just in the back of shot there, you see Albert Costa Balboa coming across the line in the 63 Emil Frey Lamborghini. He goes third fastest on a 31.744. Of course, Balboa and teammate Jack Aitken had to rather nurse the car through the race yesterday with their 20 kilos of success ballast. As we mentioned today, that will be the problem for Raffaele Marciello and Mauro Engel when we go racing. The ballast not carried in qualifying, but once we do go racing, then there will have to be some considerations for that 20 kilos. Depending on whether you're considering cars or whether you're considering the scale, may either sound like a lot or it might not, but I assure you it is a lot on a race car. 20 kilos can affect your balance, can affect your tyre wear, and since these tyres have to go the 60-minute duration, tyre wear is of the utmost importance.
Yes, I should think the ballast that was on the Aitken and Balboa car is now in the corner of the garage, very much unloved, because that really was something that it was a pain in every sense. Yesterday, you've seen Ben Green, the first to post a fairly representative time, a 1:26.396, so he's the first one into the 20s. Expecting drivers into the 25s for this qualifying session, fairly well into the 25s. So 1:26.396, a good time to get on the board for Ben Green. Currently second is the number 8 car, still not a representative time. The Drago Racing Team ZVO Mercedes. Jan Marszałkowski qualified it yesterday. We welcome back Lucas Stoltz to GT Masters for this event. Of course, Mauro Engel and Lucas Stoltz have been teammates for many, many years. They both return to the GT Masters for this event, but in different teams. Engel obviously alongside Marciello, and Lucas Stoltz alongside Jan Marszałkowski. They had a mixed day yesterday, 9th place, not bad. I think they were expecting a bit more, but in Lucas Stoltz, Jan Marszałkowski has a very powerful teammate. And Stoltz is sitting in for Daniel Juncadella. He's on IMSA duty over at Elkhart Lake. I bet it's gorgeous over there today. And he will be back for the next round at the Sachsenring. Ben Green is into the 125, so 125.968. Now the fastest time. Stoltz is back up into second at 129.158, so well over 3 seconds difference. We expect that to come tumbling down, but Ben Green, the first car to really show its pace, the first driver to nail his colours to the mast. 125.968 is the time that they're going to need to beat. Engelhardt now popping up into second place with a 126.587, so that's 6/10 shy of the provisional pole time at the moment. With just under 7 minutes of this session remaining, the times are about to start tumbling down.
Yes, indeed. They jump over the curbs. Ben Green attacking the curbs at the Vidal chicane into the final corner now. We've seen a few drivers in the last few moments back out just before this last corner to slingshot their way out of the final turn to start a proper flying lap. This is certainly a proper flying lap from Ben Green. A 125.696 puts him 8/10 clear of Frankie Bird, who's just gone second for now. Keep an eye on Jules Gounon, who looked like he was setting himself up for a quick lap as well. He's had a fairly impressive first sector, 0.04 of a second off in the first sector. The first sector split comes between turn 5 and 6, so that does account for quite a lot of the lap, and it's looking like a fairly good time so far from Jules Gounon as he now heads through the third sector, as does this man Marcus Winkelhock in the 69 car, who rounds the final turn in the car collection entry. And out of that last corner now, turn 11 across the line. It will be a 126.8, so not yet setting the world alight. Gounon crosses the line in the back of shot as well, a 125.839. So he is the second driver to get under that 126 barrier.
Keeping an eye on Frankie Bird, currently showing in 4th place. He's done that purple sector in sector 1. Sector 2, not too bad, not the quickest of anybody, but still this could be a time that moves him up, and it does, up into 2nd place. So it's Frankie Bird up into P2. We've got 3 drivers now into the 25s. That is Ben Green with a 125.696. Frankie Bird, 125.803, and Jules Gounon, a 25.839. A number of drivers now starting to wind it up. It is a BMW at the top of the timesheets from 2 Mercedes, a Porsche, another Mercedes, and a Porsche. Our highest placed Audi at the moment. They were a bit quiet yesterday, quiet once again. Ricardo Feller in the number 29 Audi. Of course, he is the defending champion in GT Masters, but he's down in 9th at the moment, 126.558. So getting on for 9/10 slower than the whole time. Still, Ben Green is the one they're tracking down. So we're watching as another of the Audis, Christopher Haase, popping up in 7th place. Lucas Stoltz in 6th place. But still, only 3 drivers breaking the 125 barrier. And we are into the last 4 minutes. So it's going to be interesting to see who can get up there with the BMW and the 2 Mercedes.
Mauro Engel just gets into that sub-126 bracket with a 125.993 on that lap, and he did so despite having a slower middle sector than he had on the previous lap. So Mauro straight back into it and straight back to the kind of performance we would expect of him. And we'll keep an eye on what this lap looks like. Lucas Stoltz doesn't look like he is anywhere near challenging Ben Green on this particular lap in the number 8 car. He's half a second off as of the middle sector, but let's see if he claws anything back as he comes around the last couple of corners. It's probably going to be a 26, but a 26 what? A 26.3 is the answer. Mapelli is on a personal best in the Paul Motorsport Lamborghini, crosses the line for a 26.2 to go 10th fastest.
So we've got just over 3 minutes remaining of the session. When the clock strikes 0, any drivers that are on a lap will be able to continue, and that lap will be counted. But once the clock strikes 0, nobody will be able to start any new laps, of course. Albert Costa Balboa, the green on the green sector, on the sector on the bottom of the screen, means he's done a personal best in sector 1. The red means that he really hasn't in sector 2. What he'd love to see is some purples. Purple meaning he's the quickest of anybody in that sector. Albert Costa Balboa at the moment in P5 with a 126.090, and he stays in P5. He's 126.058. So Albert Costa Balboa, the highest placed Lamborghini, in 6th place. In 5th place, 6th place, Konsta Lapalainen in another of the Lamborghinis. Right, Lucas Stoltz, he's turned it up a little bit now. A green in sector 1, a green in sector 2. What can he do? He needs to move it up from 13th. There's no doubt about that. It was a 26.286 last time around. Let's see what he can do as he comes out of turn 11 onto the pit straight. And what kind of improvement can he make? A 126.003. That puts him up into 5th place. So that's a much better job from Lucas Stoltz. Welcome back to the GT Masters, Luca. Good to have you here. Marco Mapelli still trucking around in the Lamborghini, and he stays in 10th place. Marcus Winkelhock also improving bit by bit, and he is going to cross the line, and let's see where he comes to. He was 19th at the start of this lap. He's surely going to improve on that as he crosses the line. Here comes Marcus Winkelhock behind the Youth Sportwagen Technique Porsche. Comes up in 15th place. Right, Mauro Engel, purple in sector 2. Let's keep an eye on that one.
Comes across the line to top the session at 125.621. He gets there by what? Less than a 10th. I'm shocked that it's so close to the GT Masters qualifying session. It's always so fine of a margin. He's currently all of 3/4 of a 10th clear of Ben Green with a 125.621, but there's still 50 seconds of the session to go, so he can't rest on his laurels.
So it's interesting. I think the track isn't as quick as it was yesterday morning, I would say. We've still got the top 19 cars covered by about 8.5 tenths at the moment. There's which is incredibly close. Here's another look at the Wiedel chicane, and this is where the cars like to get a little bit airborne, and that is Maro Engel just coming around the scene of many dramas. And here in the background comes the 19 Lamborghini as well. Well, Ben Green has parked it up in the pits. He's currently in second place. I'd say that's a satisfied look on his face. It's not going to be pole position, but it's certainly somewhere near the front, and Ben looking reasonably satisfied. He could do a fair amount of damage from there, I should think. So he would be happy if he can keep that on the front row. Here comes Frankie Bird looking to improve, currently 4th place. So once again, the yellow Mambas having the potential to be on both the first and the second row. This lap is not going to see him improve because it was red in both sectors. The checkered flag is out, so he's not going to complete that lap. Ricardo Feller, now is he on a hot lap? And it doesn't look like he is either. So it looks like we've seen all that we're going to see, and I would say it's Maro Engel who is going to be the driver who starts from pole position. Ben Green alongside Jules Gounon. He's snuck up there into 3rd place. Frankie Bird starting the number 84 yellow Mamba in exactly the same place it started yesterday, on the outside 2nd row. It's Lucas Stoltz in P5 ahead of Albert Costa Balboa in 6th. Christopher Haase is still on a hot lap, so we won't just count our chickens quite yet. No, he's not. That's a red sector 2, so he will probably peel off into the pits now as well.
He's still up by 3/10 on his previous time, though, so he may yet cross the line and move further up into the top 10. It may not be a pole challenge, but it may be a top 5. Let's just wait and see what the final sector tells us. It's 125.9,
wow.
And it does move him into 5th place. So he did lose a few hundredths to his previous time in the middle sector, but the lap was still up, and he went for it, and good thing he did.
So a little bit of a sting in the tail at the end of that session there. It's Maro Engel who will start the race today from pole position. Once again, the yellow Mamba starting on that number 1 spot. It's Ben Green who will be joining him on the front row in the BMW. Jules Gounon, that is going to be quite a fight into turn 1. He starts 3rd, and Frankie Bird once again qualifying the other of the yellow Mambas, are 4th on the grid. Christopher Haase, great qualifying from him in 5th ahead of Lucas Stoltz, 6th. Albert Costa Balboa in 7th, and Consta Lapalainen 8th. Christopher Mies, the other of the defending champions, is 9th, and Dennis Marshall rounding out the top 10. There it is, the Nürburgring Castle, and there it is, the qualifying 2 classification here for race 8 of this 14 race season in the ADAC GT Masters, competing for the title of German GT champion. So Marciello and Engel, Crutzen and Green, Schiller and Gounon. Those are the drivers making their headlines once again. It's looking quite similar in a number of places as it did yesterday. Look at Guven and Engelhardt down in 11th place. They've got a bit of work to do from there. Also, we'll keep an eye on Sturm and Muller in 13th. They were very impressive yesterday, but certainly Guven and Engelhardt, they are 2nd in the championship, and they have got a lot of work to do from there if they want to pick up some points this afternoon. There are the remainder of the cars just scrolling through, and Ricardo Feller also a long way back in the Monteclass by Land Audi, down in 17th place. So the Audi once again struggling, except for in the hands of Christopher Haase, who has that 5th place.
I think there's going to be a few disappointed drivers in the paddock after that session. I think both Engelhardt and Muller will be ruining the fact they're not into the top 10. We saw yesterday what the Porsche is capable of. We saw in previous years here, since the current generation 911 was introduced in 2019, we've seen how good it can be. And unfortunately, they haven't capitalized on this occasion. You see there the points have gone up again in favor of that man, Raffaele Marciello, who is now on 89 points to the 82 of the next closest competitors. So a 7-point deficit going into this race. And just to quickly say as well, Jesse Krohn, another one I think we can add to the disappointed list. Ben Green there in 2nd. Jesse only managing to qualify 20th.
So it's all set for a lively race this afternoon. We do hope you're going to join us. It is race 8 of this 14 race season, round 4 of the ADAC GT Masters from the legendary Nürburgring. We'll see you later for the start of the race.